I got into cooking because my grandmother was an amazing cook. She made all these Taiwanese dishes, and as a kid, I always watched her make dishes, and I think that sort of sparked my interest. And then I got more interested in high school, where you sort of had to take this food and nutrition course, and actually started really enjoying it. And started playing around with presentation, and it actually got me thinking, hey, I could probably maybe do this as a career. I think the first time I wanted to be a chef was when I cooked in high school. Of course, I sort of like to cook, and my mom and dad always made me cook for their friends. And they always said, this is how you grow, Tom. And cooking for friends and family was always really fun. And I started thinking, okay, well, if I really enjoy making food for 10, 12 people, I think this is sort of my true calling. For school, I went to the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. I guess they call it the Harvard of cooking schools. It is one of the best schools, and I had an amazing time there. The curriculum, the instructors, the students. The greatest thing about that school was everyone had passion for one thing, food. Everyone was there for food, and obviously not there because their parents wanted them to go to college, but they actually really wanted to be there. Well, when I left home for school, it was very difficult for me and my parents. Obviously, I've never left that long of a time frame, and as well, it was a different country. I didn't have any friends or relatives there, so for my end, it was quite challenging. But I really learned a lot about myself, of what I can do, and I think learning to be an independent person. School was quite challenging at times. I think there are great classes that are easy and you'd love to do, but there are other ones where culinary French I had to take. Obviously, I had to take histories of Europe, psychology, and stuff like that. Obviously, it's part of the curriculum, and it gives you an overall perspective of how sort of life is. But I think for myself, it was something.
Hey, get to work! I need this 1 dozen
I think
screws done, eh?
the best thing about school
Party's at 5 o'clock.
It taught me to be myself. I think when I went to school there were so many different cultures, religions, ethnicities, and everyone from all parts of the world. So you obviously have to be cognizant of that, but as well being yourself. I think really in college, I think you really see your true self when you get there. Obviously, high school, you try to fit into the cliques. You try to be somebody maybe who you aren't. But in college, it's really about growth, self-growth. After I went to college, it opened a lot of opportunities for me. So one of the things what I did was I went to London. They have a great culinary scene there, and I did work for Gordon Ramsey for 2 years. And then as well after that, I went to France for a year. Relocating to go to college that was in the States was challenging, but I think relocating to a different country, and as well in France, that another language that I don't really speak, that was one of the toughest things for me, I think, is no friends, no family, not knowing what to do and where to go and how they perceive sort of their life. And I think, of course, going in, I knew Chef Ramsey was going to be a hard ass, and I knew he was going to be what sort of he is sort of like on TV. And I knew I was going to learn a lot. So I kind of figured a little sacrifice and a lot to gain. So I rolled with that, and obviously the first couple of weeks was very tough, working 18, 22 hours a day, getting yelled at, sworn at, and things thrown at you is not always the funnest thing, but what I take from it is so much. I take from discipline to different techniques to just trying to make everything as perfect as you possibly can. I think the key is consistency in the kitchen, and I think that's what he sort of taught me is, you're only as good as your last dish, and of course people are going to come back and they want to make sure that it tastes the same. I think for the worst part was the screaming and yelling. I think going to culinary school and working a bit when I was back in Vancouver, there is some screaming, some yelling, but not as much as it was. At that present time when it was screaming and yelling, I obviously didn't like it. But now that I obviously take a look back and I realize that it is for one reason and one reason only, to make you sort of a better cook, a better chef. I think to make sure that you uphold the standards and not be lazy and not cut corners. And when you're in the heat of it, obviously you don't like that yelling. But afterwards, after the 2 years I was working with them, I realized that it was sort of a good thing for me. Maybe it's not for everyone, but I think for myself it worked. Yeah, I think Chef Gordon Ramsay on TV, he is, obviously he's playing a role. It's at the end of the day, it's a TV show as well. So he's also a paid actor. But compared to him in real life and on TV, he's about, what I say, 70%. So about 70% of the time, it is pretty genuine. Obviously, he does, yell at me, at you. But the swearing, not as much. Obviously, the swearing is more for television. But the yelling is definitely better. The first story, I think, it always goes back to my first week there. Of course, that week, I haven't seen him. Obviously, he was probably filming Hell's Kitchen or doing a cookbook signing. I don't know. Well, whatever. But the first week I was there, he did come in. And I think I was maybe a little bit of a celebrity shock. And I sort of burnt something. I don't really remember what it was. But I remember he came back over to me and yelled at me for about 15 minutes. So I was celebrity starstruck. And when I did burn that certain item, he did come over to me. And obviously he did start yelling and screaming, and some words I couldn't say. I can't say right now. But yeah, I felt that I didn't want to get yelled at. I think at that point in time, I almost had a tear down my face. Just the amount of yelling and swearing and the stress involved. And then at the end of the day, I did go home and I did cry on the phone to my parents, and I told them I don't think I can do this, because that was the first time that I felt that way in a long time. But my mom said, just hang in there for a month, and if you can't do a month, you tried, and you can come home. But every job is hard in the first month, and that is true. I think every job I've had since then, has been challenging, but that's why it's always challenging in the first month. So I got over that fear and over that hurdle, and I completed over a year over there. So I think the best thing about working for Chef Gordon Ramsay was just the level of food England and also Europe is. I think, yes, of course, you work long hours, but while you're working long hours, you're absorbing so much more information. So afterwards, after working for Chef Gordon Ramsay for 2 years, I feel like I have got knowledge of over 5 years of information and experience that if I lived in Vancouver, it would have taken me 5 years to get to the same point as 2 years. Would I work for Chef Gordon Ramsay again? I always sort of thought about that. I mean, going back, I sort of think, oh, what if I work for him again? What if maybe I became one of his chefs in one of his restaurants? And I think at the end of the day, I would say no. I think if I was a little younger, I would have said yes. But I think I'm at this point in my life where I love where my life is. I love the challenges of hotel industry. And I got friends and family that I love dearly here. So I don't think I would go back. What got me back to Vancouver was I got homesick. Vancouver, what I realized working all over the world is Vancouver is an amazing place. The weather, yeah, sometimes it does rain, but it's predominantly pretty good. You got great sunshine, trees, water, great outdoor activities, and that's what I really enjoy. Working in England was great, and living there was great, but everyone wanted to just drink and party, and obviously that sort of wasn't my scene. Oh, Chopped was an eye-opening experience. Obviously, I sort of wanted to do it just to see if I could do it, and obviously, I wanted to win the $10,000 as well. But just to see what the process is, and now that I've done it, there's a lot of ins and outs of shooting a television show has to do. I mean, there's a lot that goes on. And it obviously takes a lot of work. I didn't think it would take that much work, but now that I can say I was on it, it does take a lot of work, and it was just a fun thing to do. I think I sort of wanted to challenge myself. Obviously, I didn't do as well as I hoped, but it was a great experience, and I definitely would do it again if they called me. Was it hard to get on the show? Not that challenging, but I think the whole process was a lengthy one, more than I thought it would take. So I think they're obviously looking for people who know how to cook and also great characters. And of course, as on TV, it's sort of a story that we're trying to tell, right? So they're trying to make sure that they have the right people that it can tell the story. Would I want to open my own restaurant? That's what question I think every single person in my life has ever said to me. And it always sort of changes. I think, when I was in college, I was really gung-ho about opening something on my own. Obviously I came back to Vancouver and I have some friends, family, even family friends that said they would invest in me. I think at this point in time, I would say no, but I think, who knows? I mean, if it's the right time, obviously the right location, and I'm in a point in my life where I want to sort of take on this challenge, I think I would. It would be obviously something small, and I think something fun foods. I think obviously food focused. I am the sous chef at Rosewood Hotel Georgia in Vancouver, BC.